Hi, it's Annalie. Today I am going to make another shaker card, and I am using the Garland Grace Altenew outline stamp set and stencils. I just did my very first layer using a large brush and a strawberry ink. This is a fresh dye ink. And now I'm going to move on to stencil number 2. This is going to be the background for my shaker. I don't know why as soon as I start videoing I can no longer speak. Not sure what that's all about. I'm going to use frayed leaf because I want to keep this somewhat on the subtle side. It's going to be hard because I have this one little piece right here that's not really attaching where I want it to. If you don't know what I mean, I just mean this little piece right here is kind of just like floating right there, but I might end up cutting that off. I probably will end up cutting that off anyway, so it won't matter. All right, that's stencil number 2. I'm doing this on my stamp wheel 2 because this was a larger stamp. It wouldn't really fit on my regular stamp wheel, so I'm fortunate enough to have both. Now with this stencil set, with a lot of the layering stencil sets, two different things. I know exactly how to layer this one because it has these lasered lines etched in here, so I know that that is going to line up right here with this outline. I also see that there's an etched line here, which shows that everything on this side of that line is, you would have to readjust your stencil. So for this stencil, only this part is being used. It's hard to see because I have my camera right in front of my head, but it's not that difficult to line up. And then I'm going to grab a dusty pink for this layer. I'm gonna just grab a little bit of this tape and put it on here because I don't want it to get onto my cardstock, as I will not be cutting this one out. So I'm going to do that, and then I am going to use just a smaller brush and some of the blush rose and just go on the very inside, just to give a little bit of depth into the center part of the rose. I'm going to stop there. I might choose to come back with the raspberry sunset, but I kind of want to keep this one light. I'm going to pull this back just like this so as not to ruin the cardstock. And then I can come in with the other side of this, and that's just going to do, well, the accent for this one leaf. Okay, on to stencil number 4. Again, this has an etched line here, so I know it's going to be, actually it has 2 etched lines, so it's going to be used 3 different times if those appear on my cut flower here. Let's see, this one is going to go here, and then the others will line up easily. Here's my tape. This time I'm covering this right here because I don't want that to get touched by my brush. Butternut yellow is one of my favorite yellows. But I'm also going to use a little bit more of this dusty blush rose and just come in and do a little bit on the inside. You can hardly even notice it. And just move this one. This looks like it lines up right here. Make this one just a tiny bit darker because they're not, flowers in nature are never exactly the same. So add a little bit more in. Not too much, I don't want it to be all pink. And then these last two here. Now I stamped this with a lighter gray ink just because I didn't feel like having the dark black today. I decided just to go with a light gray to keep it a little bit more neutral. But I'm trying to keep my cardstock right in place, and I did leave the stamp on the stamp wheel plate so that I can come back if I need to and re-stamp it at the end. And that will just depend on my mood. We'll see how I do. All right, so that's the end of that one. And then the last stencil will be the leaves and the stems. See what I did? I didn't cover that part up because I wasn't paying attention. That is on the other side, and now I'm going to have a green mark. But again, it's fortunately in a good spot that I can trim that right there. Rather than just being careful, I'm going to cover this too, because you don't want green on your rose. Now I'll use a bigger brush, smaller brush, I'm sorry. And I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker green and just add some of this into some where the shadows might be. And also the middle of the flowers. I never really understood stencils. I didn't think that they were necessary, but now that I have been introduced to these Altenew layering stencils. I love them. I really do. I like how they make it so easy. And I'm trying to see, is this part of it? Yeah, I think so. Yep. Okay, I'm going to cover this part again. And I will just use the smaller brush this time. These are all on the other side of this etched line, so I'm not touching those. But these leaves are also a little bit farther behind a lot, so they're going to need a little bit more shadow. So I'm going to make those a little bit darker all the way around. This one goes on here. I have the habit of putting my ink down anywhere, but sometimes it's dirty on the back, so I really should not be putting it right onto my cardstock. Even the covers especially, because when you go to put your cover on, you know, if you miss the side like this and it happens to rub across there and then you put that down, your covers, you have to be very careful. At least I do. I am known for ruining a project at the end because I put down, especially the black cover, and then I have marks everywhere. So I have to be better about how I do that. Okay. So there we have that. Now, I think I'm going to bring this one back in, and I'm just going to go in with just a little bit of that Raspberry Sunset, just a little bit. I don't want to ruin it now that it's all done. I'm just going to try to do it right in the center part. And the edges, the inner edges. Give it just a little bit of boost. Gorgeous. Okay, now, do I want to, I don't think I need to come back in, and I don't think I need to add it. I was gonna come back. I have this right in place so that I could come back in if I needed to, and it would be exactly where I need it so that I could ink it again. But I actually think I'm going to leave it like that because I kind of like this sort of the subtle look for today's project. I'm just going to take this off, set that aside, and then I will trim this down because I don't want it to be too big. So I'm going to trim this to 5 1/4 by 4. I'm going to save these so that I have sentiment strips for another time. I save everything. I really do. I use everything multiple times. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the packaging from one of my latest purchases, and I'm going to just cut it so that it's about 1/2 inch larger all the way around. You can cut it with scissors, or you can cut it with your paper trimmer. I'm just going to cut it with a trimmer because it's easier for me. It's already out. That. part I won't use again. And then this one, I will just cut like this. Just cutting along the folds, just so that now I have 2 pieces that I can use. All right, I'm going to set this one aside for another use. I'm going to take the card panel and place it upside down onto the packaging. Now I need double-sided tape. This is not foam tape, this is just a regular tape, and I'm going to run it along the edge of, I do 2 sides at a time. So I'll do that side, I'll do the long edges. And I don't have to do it on top of the packaging right now, but I did. I'm gonna grab my picker tool. And I'm just going to take the release paper off from one side, make sure it's centered so that there's the same amount, at least somewhat the same amount all the way around. And I'm just gonna fold this right over. Not pulling too tight, you want it snug but not tight because you want room for your shaker bits to move. Now I'll do the other side. Remove this. And I don't want to pull it, but I want to make sure it's snug. And every time I do it, I feel like I just pull it a little too hard. So I'm going to really try not to pull it too hard this time. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my scissors and just cut. I like to cut that flap off too. Just cut it on an angle. Sometimes these tuck nicely, sometimes they don't. So I just kind of just trim those off. And then same thing here. I will add this strip on here. Add it to the other side. Now I add both of the tape at the same time because one time I did not. I was doing it one side at a time, so I taped it and then I folded it. And then when I got to this last edge, it was a disaster because I had sequins in it and everything fell out and it just didn't work well. So I try to do it all. I try to tape all the layers at the same time. And then just fold that one up. And then before I fold the other one, we're going to need to fill it. So I have some of these sequins from Altenew. And I'm trying to think if I want the rose gold. I don't think I do. I think I'm going to just do clear. So I have a little tiny scoop. I have that edge of the envelope open. And I'm just going to grab some of these and tip them in there. I can use all different sizes, some of the little tiny ones. Oh, I forgot to put my sentiment on. Man, I tell ya. That's right, I'll just add it to the top. It's not a big deal. Okay, so that will be it. And before I knock this off my desk, I'm going to put the cover back on and set it to the side. And now, without spilling, take off the last thing of tape, the backing, the adhesive backing, and then fold this over. Again, not pulling super tight, but making sure that all of the edges are being adhered down. And then you have this pretty little shaker. So I have a top folding card that I will add onto there. Yeah. And then what I do here is I'm going to take, I think I'm out of the Altenew double-sided tape that's wider. So I'm going to use this scrapbook tape. And I'm just going to add this on. Then the way I add it, I just grab the edge. And I just take it and fold just a little bit of it down. So there's a sticky edge and a not sticky edge. And then I'll take this one, and this one, because it's in the middle, I have to fold it down a little bit farther. And same thing over here. I will take this and fold it to the edge so that it's off of the panel. Same thing here. And now I can play with this part to make sure that it's all perfectly in place. Be sure that my fold is at the top, because I've done that before. And now I'm going to make sure that this part that still has the adhesive backing on it is exactly where I want it, because I can move that around before I attach the top. So now the top is attached. Then I can just pull these and attach the rest. And I don't really like that there is glue on here. There we go. So there we have this top folding shaker card. So I chose a sentiment from the Honeybee Stamps Everything Beautiful set. It says, wishing you a special day filled with your favorite things. And I'm stamping it with my stamp wheel using the same gray. It's from Stampin' Up. It is Smoky Slate. I'm using the same gray that I used to stamp the image, just so that they coordinate. And I stamp it to, maybe I'll do it a third time, just have a nice crisp sentiment. And then I will put this right in place, give it a quick clean. And then I'm going to stamp it with Versamark ink. Versamark ink is a clear, sticky ink so that you can apply embossing powder, and it will make your image or your words, in this case it's my sentiment, it'll make it shiny. So I will apply the powder to the sticky ink, and then I have to heat set it for the heat embossed image. So I do that twice just because it's clear, so you can't really see it very well. So I just like to do that just to be sure it's crisp and clean. Now I have my clear embossing powder right here. I'm just gonna dump it on there, tap it off, and then heat set. I just want to always be sure that it's all shiny and that there's no powder. Perfect. I'm just gonna do it twice. I don't think it needs to be super thick. That's the whole reason for this kind of shaker, is that I don't like to send anything too thick through the mail. So that includes the sentiment as well. So I'll give it a little layer, but not too much. And then I will attach these together with liquid glue. But for this part, to attach it to here, I think I want double-sided tape. And I don't have anything smaller, so I'm just going to take some of this and just cut little tiny pieces, which is not the most ideal. Actually, maybe I can do it like this. just going to cut it right down the middle. Do the best that I can. There's not much to hold on to here. There we go. Then I can attach a half of the strip to each side. Sorry if you're hearing my stomach. I feel like every time I make a video, my stomach decides it needs to be hungry. So I'll do that. And then I guess just for added security, I will also put glue on, just because I want it to stick. And then the way I line it up is I line this up and whoop, it's upside down. Line that up on one of these lines on my mat, and then I will try to line this up on this line right here. And because there's glue, I will throw on a block just to keep it from moving. So here is my shaker card complete. I turned off my light because it was glaring so much, so hopefully it's not too dark, but I love the crystal sparkles in here. It makes it really pretty and very delicate, very dainty. So I hope you give it a try, and I hope I will see you again soon. Have a great day.